Hey, what's up? John Sonmez here from simpleprogrammer.com. So I have a guest here today, someone who I wanted to share his story because I got an email from Greg a while back here, and Greg had told me that he was 23-year-old with a high school degree and working at a bank teller, and he sent me some of his progress on applying some of the philosophy that we talk about here on Simple Programmer, and some of that success, and I encourage him to go on and keep going. And then later I got another update with an email with some more success, which was pretty cool to see. So I always think it's kind of a good idea to just like share these stories to kind of inspire you guys, especially some of you, maybe you think that you can't go from me. Sometimes maybe I think you think that what I'm talking about is just kind of pipe dreams, and it's easy to just say that from some position of success in your life. But I think Greg's a great example of what can happen when you do apply yourself. So thanks for coming on and sharing your story, Greg, and welcome.
Hey John, how you doing? So basically, I'm a junior developer, Lightning Jar currently. It has been a crazy journey. I'm very thrilled to be on the show.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and by the way, Borelly, right? Is that
Yeah, Borelly, you got it right.
Okay, cool, awesome. So Greg, maybe if you want to tell a little bit about your story, kind of how you got started. How did you even find Simple Programmer?
Sure. So the first time I watched a video from you, John, it was I think it was one of those days where you have a really crappy day.
Oh yeah.
I had a customer just completely flipped out on me for no reason whatsoever. So it was one of those moments where you feel kind of like powerless. And when you're under like a customer service role, you can't really yell back. You have to keep your composure. And but those moments kind of eat away at your confidence as a human being in general, because when you have someone yell at you or just flip out for no reason whatsoever. And I kind of felt like crap that day. So I went home. I'm like, I got to do something with my life. This is not it. I had a really bad start to my computer science kind of journey. I didn't have a math teacher all the way to high school.
Right.
So,
Okay.
basically, it was like, I went to a really bad middle school. It was all substitute teachers, and basically no math class whatsoever. So I was really scared of math and stayed away from computer science for a long time. But that day, everything kind of just hit me all at once. I was like, no, I have to do something. I have to make a change. And I went online. I went on YouTube. I searched programming channels, and you were the first one to come up on the list. So you're doing very well, by the way. So you were the first hit. I'm like, okay, let me check this guy out. I also worked at GNC before I worked at the bank. So I used to be really into working out and supplements and all of that. So when I saw you, I was like, oh, he's buff. He's a programmer. Let me give it a try. I watched a couple of videos and I was just hooked from there.
Cool, awesome. So and at this time you're a bank teller, right? And so what happened there? What tell me what happened after that, after you start watching the videos and decide you got to do something with your life. What did you decide to do?
I would like to say that things started changing right there, but that's a lie. Usually people like say, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then just like slack off. And I'm no different from that. I it's kind of shameful to say, but I'm just like the rest. And I literally slacked off for almost a full 1 or 2 years, and slacked off in the way that I was giving myself busy work. But when you give yourself busy work, it has a weird way of making you feel productive, even though you're not getting anywhere. So you're basically spinning your wheels. So that's what I was doing for a while, for about a year, just doing random work, jumping from learning one programming language to the next, but not really with any clear goals or aspiration to do a roadmap to get to a place. Luckily though, throughout that year, I was watching your videos and I was learning. But it wasn't like once I started applying your philosophy that I really started seeing results. Like I sent you a message, it was January around
Yeah.
January, 3 months ago, 4 months, well, now 6 months ago. And that's really when I began putting the foot down and getting shit done, basically. So I started working out. I developed a plan to become a programmer. And that's how it kind of kicked out. And things started happening from there.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And I remember from your email that you're saying that you moved out of your parents' house, you got your apartment, you got married in this time frame, and then you started working out, running 5-10 miles a day. What else did you put on there? Like the plan. I think that's one of the key things is like, so what's the difference between like, because I think there's a lot of people that watch the YouTube and it's good. I think, mindset change is really important, right? I think that's like critical, like to get, a lot of people have a victim mindset and they don't even realize it, right? I mean, there's people that have it, but we all have it to some degree. And we start taking more responsibility for our life. But what is the difference between, because I think one of the places where people get stuck is that they're screwing around. They're not actually applying. Like you said, I think you said you're kind of doing some programming languages here, but then you got a plan. So what's the difference there? I mean, what does that mean exactly? Like to go from screwing around to having a plan?
Yeah, so it comes to, you have to know what your end goal is. So if you're like, oh, I want a job, you're not really gonna get there unless you really like set out the plan to what you're going to do. I knew what I was gonna do from January up to now to get to where I am right now. And basically I decided what my end goal would be. I started planning. I knew it wasn't gonna be easy. Another thing that comes into mind is how much hard work you have to put it is not as much as you think. It's gonna be like 10 times more than what you think. So I prepared to do more work than what I expected. And it served me right, because I'll be honest with you, it was 10 times as hard as I thought it would usually be. I literally, like, while preparing for this job, I would wake up at 9, go to my internship, work all the way to 5, right? Then at 6 o'clock, I would head out to a JavaScript class I was attending, and then program from 6 all the way to 9 at night, only to get home and keep going all the way to like 12. So I did that for about 3 months straight.
Yeah.
And that made all the difference. So, but you also have to have kind of like a layout. So in your book, you talk about like defining your scope when you're setting on a learning plan. And I think that's important, because I haven't learned everything there is to, like, let's say JavaScript or JavaScript frameworks like React. However, I set out the scope of minimum things I needed to learn for me to get in the door. And it's funny, it actually worked out pretty well. Now that I'm inside, I'm learning a lot, like a PHP and things like that. And working with a lot of things, with a lot of projects that don't necessarily involve any skill sets I already have, but they take advantage of the approach of learning new things. So something that I didn't really put as much emphasis before, and I kind of just see it in retrospect, is you have to have a good system to learn new things. Because when you're on the job, they'll throw you on a new project, especially if you're working for an agency. They'll throw you on a new project. They're like, okay, here's a PHP project. Can you fix this? And then you have to go to work. So it's very important to be able to learn, define your scope, and kind of like limit yourself to how much you want to take in, because if you try to learn everything, you're just gonna fail.
Exactly. Yeah. You picked up on some really good points. That's why I put that 10 steps to learn anything quickly course together, was because it's primary. Like I had to figure out, like, first, I mean, because it's tempting, because you want to read the whole book, you want to get it all, but you can't get it all. So you've got to scope it down, which is so important. And then just having some kind of process to be able to learn, because as a developer, you're always learning. You're always having to be thrown into new situations, and you can never master it. It's so different than some other field where it doesn't change, and it doesn't change rapidly, and you can master it. I mean, you could become a physicist and know everything about physics, essentially, right? Like and then that's not going to change very much. But in software development, it changes so rapidly. So tell me what happened then. You went, okay, so you start off as bank teller. You say, I got to change my life right after this, that incident. And then you don't quite do that for about a year, but you're listening, you're changing, you're growing. And then you get this plan. Now you did the plan and you said, and so you went to coding boot camp and then so you're doing your regular full-time job. You're going to this boot camp in the evenings, getting this stuff done. Then what happens? Did you get a job as a developer?
Yeah, I did. So as of now it's almost 3 weeks. As of almost a month ago, I became a junior developer at Lightning Jar, which is a agency that works with companies like HBO and Home Depot in order to create their sites and applications. So it's like very exciting work. It's been like, I probably improved in the last 3 weeks and worked my ass off more than I ever have.
Yeah.
It is totally worth it. Something else I didn't mention before was what really kicked off my journey, I would say, was losing my job as a teller. So which is interesting because it goes back to things are either obstacles or you could use them to your advantage. So it's like, are you making excuses for the shit that happens to you in life? Are you making something out of the shit? Because shit's always gonna happen. And I tell my wife this every day. I'm like, hey, shit happens. You just make the best of it.
Right.
So I lose my job. And I'm like, fuck, I'm fucked. We have, imagine as a teller, you can't really save a lot of money. So it's like, we have like about a month worth of savings. And the logical thing would have been to jump to another bank. And I could have done that. I actually got offers from other banks to join them as lead teller. So I would have been leading my own team of tellers and everything, which is in itself is kind of like an advancement over what I was doing before. But I decided to turn those down just because you could fail at something you want to do, or you could fail at something you don't want to do. And I didn't want to go down that road again. So I decided to apply the plan, apply the philosophy. That day that I got fired while walking home, I had one of those clear moments where you could kind of see, I don't want to say the future, but you could kind of see it all unfolding in front of you. And I realized if I didn't take aggressive action right there, I was going to end up in the same place, back in the same loop, doing the same thing. And sometimes it takes events like getting fired in order for you to break the loop and do something else, do something new. You just have to take advantage of them. Now, I knew it was a two-steps process. Like motivation is something that's hard. You know, you have motivation one day, the next day you're screwed. So your videos helped a lot. I want to thank you for those. They kind of kept me going every time I hit the lows. But even so, with all the videos and all the support from my wife and family, there were days where I just wanted to quit.
Oh yeah.
And those days are painful. It's now roses and fun. Like there are gonna be days like, and I guess if you're watching this, you're probably right where I was when I was watching your videos. And there's gonna be days when you're just sitting down and you don't want to get work done. You're tired. You just don't feel like coding. You have to do it. Those are the days that counts. Without those days, I wouldn't have made any progress. Because to tell you the truth, there were like 10 days where I actually had the most fun ever. And then the rest was like hard work.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you've got a couple of good points in there, that especially with the hard work and the motivation, and those are the days that really count. It's where that's where you grow. It's sort of like that. I think of it as like when you're lifting weights, like the most important rep is like that last rep, right? It's like that's where you're already pre-exhausted the muscle, and it's the same thing. It's like that you grow. I find the most depth when I force myself to go forward when I don't feel like it, and that's where that's where you expand the capacity of the tank, and that's
it's important. It's like when you're reaching that muscle failure, at the end of that said, that's when you push. That's when it happens. And I kind of saw that happen there, because also while learning how to program, I had to apply to jobs at the same time. So the job hunting process is like the most depressing thing you could ever do. It's like, it's completely depressing, but I had a plan. I applied to 100 jobs a day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay. So you had a
see,
plan. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. So I slept probably, during those 3 months, I probably slept like 3 hours a day. Except for the weekends. The weekends, I allow myself to kind of catch up and sleep and kind of like spend time with my wife, because she wouldn't see me all week.
Yeah.
But I applied to 100 jobs a day. And the key to that is like, not all those jobs I technically qualify for, but I let the companies tell me I didn't qualify for them. I didn't assume I didn't qualify for them, because like from my experience in the boot camp and everything, I saw a lot of developers, they assume they're not qualified for a job just because they see like a crazy job description.
Right.
But right now for example, like right now, my current task, I'm integrating the GitHub API to a third-party API, a RIKE API, which is kind of like a project management system.
Right.
And if you would have told me that in the job description, I would have like, fuck no, I don't know how to do that. And I'm currently like literally like killing it while making the project. So it's really like, don't decline yourself an opportunity just because you think you can do it. If you have like the slightest hope or knowledge that you will be able to learn how to do something, go for it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, too many people definitely count themselves out, because I mean, you don't know, and you don't. Again, like I would hire someone, and I've hired people for development roles that did not have any of the skills required in the job description. But when I interviewed them, I said, okay, this is a smart person who knows what they're doing and is aggressive and is like motivated and is a quick learner. So I'd rather have this person than someone who has the skills but is not as motivated, right? That I just don't feel is going to be as successful, because I know if someone's got the elements of success, they're going to be success. I mean, if someone's willing to apply to 100 jobs a day, that person I want on my team, right? Because I know that they're going to apply that same kind of mentality, that Bulldog mentality to my job and into my project, what I'm working on.
Exactly.
There's some actually, I just had spaced it, but I wanted to go back to unpack one thing that you said too, which you talked about this idea. You said that when you got fired from that bank teller job, that you had this moment of, I call these moments of clarity. It's like, and I think you only get few of these in your life. I think I probably did a video on this and talked about the idea, but I think that's something that I wanted to go back to point out just to everyone that was listening or watching, is that, I mean, if you don't, and you said that you might get stuck in this cycle, and it's funny because you have this you don't have these moments of clarity all the time. It's only at certain times, and it's like, if you don't take action when you have that moment of clarity, you're sort of doomed. Like, you don't know when it's coming again, right? So it's really like one of those things that's so critical, at least. And sometimes I get these panic moments when I have one of these moments of clarity. I'm like, I email myself and I'm like, don't forget this, man. Don't, like, you need to take action on, or I do something immediately to make sure that I take action, because I don't want that mindset. I don't want that to disappear again, and then be lost forever. So
yeah, it's one of those rare moments where you find that courage to do what you need to do. And if you don't take advantage of it, then it's like you said, you never know when it comes back around. You might be stuck doing the same thing until the next time you hit that moment, but it might be too late by then.
Exactly. It's like if you ever missed your exit, there was this one place in Florida where, like, if you missed the exit, you'd be going on a bridge for 5 miles. Like, so you can't turn around for a long time. And so it was like, I've missed the exit a couple times. Like, oh shit, what the hell am I going to do? Like, and then you're screwed. So when you see that exit, you got to make sure, you got to be paying attention.
You got to take it. Yeah.
No, one thing that you sent me a lot in your emails, which of course I appreciate, is so that you're trusting the process. So what does that mean to you personally, like the idea, and how did that impact you?
So it goes back to those days where you have no motivation, where you're tired as hell. those days where you feel like kind of like empty inside, as far as like, oh, I can't, like, not just that you can do something, but just that you won't. So those days were the days where I was like, trust the process, keep going. And I think it's very important, because if you laid out a plan, if you define a map and you define your road to how to get where you need to get to, there were days where I was like, I'm applying to all these freaking jobs and
Right.
no one has called me. Like literally for the first month, I got probably 2 calls, and that's a lot of applications. I was like, what? So those are the moments where you have to be like, okay, trust the process, keep going.
Yep.
Like, and another thing that's important is like define goals that you have control over. So like I could have control over applying to 100 jobs. I didn't always meet the 100, but I got close to like 60, 70, 50. Sometimes I got all the way to 120
Right.
on some days, depending on how much energy I had. But regardless of that, you have control over that. If you set goals that you have no control over, like go on 3 interviews,
Right.
yeah, I mean, how are you going to make someone else go make you give you 3 interviews? You can't. But you could control how many applications you submit. So that's something important. But if you know you're doing the right thing, stick with it.
Exactly.
You might not see results. It's like working out. You probably won't see results right away. Work out for 3 months, and then you'll see the change that's happening in your life. It happens gradually. Same thing with the whole job application and learning how to code. It just happens gradually. It happens day by day. You don't go from like 0 to genius in one day. It's impossible. So
Right.
it's very important to define those goals you have control over, and then just work it. Just trust it. Keep going. Even if you don't look so much at the results, but look more at the input that you're putting in.
Nice. Yeah, you got it exactly. And one of the reasons I think you're so successful at it is that you had the process. I think, when I listen to what you're saying here, you had a plan, like you said, for scoping this down, for figuring out what you need to learn. And you had the boot camp that you went to, and you did that every day, right? So you had that, and it's it's a process will work. That will give you the skills you need. And then you had a process for getting the developer job, and you said, well, if I apply for about 100 developer jobs a day, eventually this has to work. This has to click. And I think what's key there is that, like you said, if you know where you're going and you keep on walking that direction, you're going to get there. But it doesn't have to be the most efficient way, right? It's like, I think some people get stuck up and they're like, I don't know if this is the best way to do it. And it's like, well, you know what? If I'm in California right now and I want to go to New York, as long as I like walk northeast and check where I'm at, like eventually, and keep checking to make sure that I'm not in Canada and I'm not in the ocean, right? I'm gonna get there, right? I mean, I can put a few markers in place. So it might not be the best way, right? It'd probably be better if I like got a plane and flew there. But if I'm going to get there. Like even that process is, as horrible as it is, will get me there eventually. And so, but most people, I think they don't come up with a process at all. And that's why, I think that's why when I look at the people that email me that have had success, they're the ones like you that came up with a plan and then put their head down and execute the plan, right? And it doesn't mean that every single time that if you come up with a plan, you're automatically going to succeed. But if you're adaptable and you're learning and you're course correcting as you're going, not too much, but honestly at the points where it makes sense, you're going to get there. Like I can't imagine that you could, and that's the other thing. It's like, I can't imagine that you apply for 100 jobs a day and not eventually get a job, even if it's just by random lucky chance, right? That maybe, I mean, eventually you're going to run into an interviewer that's just like so sick of hiring people that he's like, fuck it, I'm just hiring this guy. Like, I don't even care, right? Like, I mean, there's someone like that. Like, not saying that that's...
Say that's what I was aiming for. I'm like, I'm going to reach someone in HR who's just sick of interviewing people, and they're going to run into me and they're going to have to hire me. That's literally one of my thoughts that went through my mind when I started the whole process.
Oh yeah, I mean it could happen, right? So that's like, but that's why having such a good process is so critical. And then you know that it's gonna work eventually, if you keep on doing it. So
So
cool. Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna add being honest, because a lot of people they look for the what was the one thing that
Mm,
made all the difference, because nothing really changed except for my mindset.
right.
So I would say like philosophy and mindset are like a must, but developer wise, like what was the one thing that changed during that time? I'm not much of a better coder than I was, let's say 2 months ago. I am, but not to the degree that's some sort of crazy change. Um, so I would say concentrate on like soft skills. So like something a lot of people kind of like ignore is like, oh, they're gonna hire me because I know all this crazy JavaScript methods and all of that, and I know all this crazy stuff with the programming language. But in total, I went like on 20, probably 20 interviews, around there, 15 to 20 interviews in the whole process. The first ones were really bad, and I kept improving as time went on. But most of them, once you get past a few technical questions, were all kind of like tailored to find out if you're an asshole or not.
Right.
And
Exactly.
and that's something that most people ignore. Like, show them like how much drive you have, how much your capacity to learn. Just like how you said earlier, how you look for the person to have the capacity to learn things quickly, and kind of like you hire somebody because it's going to be your coworker for the next unforeseeable time. You're going to hang out with this guy most likely. So
Right.
they're actually looking into who they're hiring. Like, so they're actually looking into your personality. I think a lot of people, like from the boot camp and from my internship where I met like more developers, they kind of like ignore the whole personality side of things. And yeah, you do need a baseline technical ability so you could get the job done, but also like concentrate on the soft skills, because that's really what, honestly, in my case, that's what sold it. I wouldn't have been able to get the job without my soft skills.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point. That and it's so true. So many people think that if they just get the technical skill point, if they reach a certain level of technical competency, that they'll get a job, and that's what's going to guarantee their success. But it's so untrue. You could even be very, very skilled technically and not be able to get a job because you lack the soft skills. Where at the same time, you could just have a bare competency technically, but if you can demonstrate those soft skills, demonstrate that ability to learn, the eagerness, that you're resourceful, right, all of these type of things, and you're not an asshole, right, like people want
Yeah.
to work with you, then that's going to go a lot further. So that's cool. And you probably learn probably too. You said you went on 20 25 interviews. That's you get feedback, and you learn and you adapt and you get better at that piece. And that's another thing too. It's like, if you think about it, like just like your numbers are interesting too. It depends on where, like the more merit you have on your resume, the more skills you have and experience, the higher hit rate you're going to have, right? So
Yeah.
you're going to get more interviews from your resumes that you send out, or for jobs that you apply to, right? But even but having less experience and less skills, maybe it's at that level. So I think a lot of people, because I get emails from people, I'm trying to get a developer job, and they're sending out, maybe they're not even applying for like 5 jobs a day, right? Maybe they're applying for like 1 job a day, or even not. I applied for like, some people honestly think that they applied for like 5 jobs. What happened? And can you imagine? I mean, if you just applied for 5 jobs, it would take you years.
It
Like there'd
wouldn't
be no
happen. You have to be you might as well just play the lottery if
right,
you apply to 5 jobs and you expect to have a developer job, especially if you don't have like the credentials and
right,
the kind of like robust experience that a lot of developers have, a lot of senior developers. But as a junior developer coming from a background that's not web developer or any sort of development, I think you just need to brute force it. I mean, it is not pretty, like you said, it's a ugly course, but it works. It's like
right.
comparing a code that's beautifully um, modular and modular and everything is very like beautifully coded, but it doesn't work. And then compare it to some monolithic creature of a code that's kind of like crazy all over, but it works. It might not be pretty, but
Right.
if it gets the job done, it wins over something that doesn't work and looks pretty.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's always a strategy you can apply. Being prolific, outworking people, that it's all the same thing, which is like, brute force, like be the bulldog, and you're eventually like people are going to yield. Like you're going to get your way if you keep on pounding, keep on pushing, that just like that water, that little drop of water erodes, over time, the
Yeah.
rock, right? It
Yeah.
can destroy a rock. That it's the same thing. You just got to be persistent. That's where that trusting the process, but you got to have the process.
You
So
have to. You have to. If you don't have the process, you're gonna give up. You're not gonna, if you don't have a plan and you don't trust the process, you're gonna give up, and you're not, because results are not seen right away. I waited a full month to see my first interview, to go to my first interview, a full month.
yeah.
So imagine going every day, stressed out, money's like running out,
Yeah.
and you're applying to jobs while you're declining, like banking jobs, for example. Like, it really gets to you. I could have easily just gone with one of those jobs and gave up, but I could just say it was trust. You have to trust the process in order for shit to happen. Something else I want to mention is my first interview.
Okay.
Horrible.
Oh yeah.
Completely horrible, and great at the same time. So it was so bad that I turned to the interviewer and I was like, okay, I'm not getting this job. Help me out. What can I do better? How can,
Oh, good.
and we actually turned that into a mini working session on how to
Nice.
improve my interview. So don't give up if you like start out rocky. I probably, like, the first 7 interviews were like completely like horrible. Like I would never want to relive that again.
Yeah.
But you do catch on as they go on. And these are, by the way, only like in-person interviews. Like, there were a lot of more like phone
Right.
interviews and things like that. But you do improve over time. You get used to it and you feel more comfortable the more interviews you go to. So like by the time my final week before I took this job, I had 3 job offers. And I
Wow.
went on that week, it was 4 interviews 1 week. So I went on 4 interviews that last week and got 3 job offers. So that's just to show you how doing something over and over and over and over, even if you're fucking up completely at the beginning, is worth it if you're learning from it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point. Wow. That's amazing. And that just goes to show you that obviously your interviewing skills must have gone up if your hit ratio was so high at that point. I sometimes have to remind myself to, like, that I have a biological human brain, and it works, like, it's so advanced that as long as I can't help but learn, right? We can't help but learn. So as long as we just keep on doing it, we will adapt, and our brains will automatically learn stuff, right? We're going to improve. It seems like that's not the case when you're so far away. So you've just got to convince yourself. You got to say, I'm not really much stupider than anyone else. I'm not, it's like, if other people have learned how to do this, right? I mean, remember when I was first learning programming, I remember I had to like think, gosh, I just have to keep on going, because eventually it must click. And it did. It clicked. Eventually it did click. But it's one of those things. Like, sometimes you just got to remember, like, you do not have a defective human brain. You just got a brain in your head, and like, it will automatically do this stuff. All you have to do is feed it the right stuff, and it's going to produce the output for you. It's an automatic process almost, but you just have to hang on long enough to let that happen, and you will. Like, you go on 25 interviews, you're going to get damn good. By the time you do 20 of them, you're going to improve. It's like, it would be impossible for you not to, right? That's because that's how your brain is biologically wired to do that. So.
And it's funny because I was reading one of your emails recently. It kind of just prompted that thought. So the email was, I forgot what it was. It was about bench pressing. Yeah, that's what it was. So it was like, if you read about bench pressing before working out, you might fuck up the way you. I might be rehashing it wrong here, so you help me out. But basically, you will learn more from bench pressing first and then reading about proper form than from doing a ton of fucking research and then basically try to apply all at once while you're freaking out because everything's going wrong. And I think that's something I recommend as far as like interviews. Don't go out there and fucking like read every interview tip you can,
Right.
because it's gonna fuck you up. That's what I did at first, actually, to be honest. I read a bunch of material on how to like be great at interviews, and it just fucked me up completely. Like I just kept thinking, oh, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. Don't do it. I would say go on interviews, get really good at just the interview part, and you're much more closer to the job than if you were just doing the learning technical stuff and just reading interview questions and things like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you got to put it into practice first, and then the tips and then the strategies will help you to refine and know what because you don't know what you're doing. We learn best when we have questions and we answer our own questions, or we find something we're doing wrong and we find the solution for it. But if you're not actually a practitioner, if you're not actually doing it, then you don't develop that, and so you come on with an overwhelming amount of information that is very difficult for you to process, right? It's so much easier for me to for you to correct your form. Let's say you took on bench press once you've done it before, because then you understand the mechanics behind it and you understand what's going on, or you watch a video of yourself doing it, and then you can read up and see what is right. But if you just attempt to do it, so many people spend so much time learning, and then but they're not actually out there. Like go and get kicked in the nuts, go and take a couple of swings with the baseball bat and strike out a few times, and then you'll know what you need to work on, and you'll have that experience.
That's true. And it's important to actually get out there and do it. Like before, I would say before, don't throw yourself like a jackass, but still do it. Just do it. Because nothing fits as a blanket statement. So a lot of the advice and things that are out there might not apply to you, but certain parts of that advice might apply to you, but you won't know until you try it. So unless you go out there and bench press yourself, you won't know if you're gripping the handlebars wrong, or you're not going low enough when you're coming down, or you're going up too fast. So it depends. Every person's different. So everyone's journey is different. So it's important to do stuff and then grab the advice that applies to you, but you won't know that until you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like what you did with saving the interview. I mean, that's one thing. Like, I don't want to encourage people to say when the interview is going bad to say, oh, fuck it, it's going bad. Right. But if you know that you're not getting the job and the interview is going horribly bad, it's not a bad idea to do what you did and say, hey, look, well, how can I salvage this? What's the best I can get hope for this opportunity? And it's like, maybe it's to tell the interviewer, hey, look, man, like I know, like I'm not coming down on myself, not trying to be hard on myself, but we both know I'm not getting this job. That's cool. Like, but I do want to get a job. Like, do you mind spending like 15 minutes with me going over just like how I can improve, and think about it, like you got to flip the script, and think about if you're interviewing someone and they do it in that way, right? I mean, if someone says there's ways to do it, but if you're genuine and you're honestly right, and you're not just coming down on yourself, like, and there's a difference, right? Because I think some people go into interviews and then they're like, man, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I said that. Oh man, this is just not good. You're not going to hire me for this job, right? Like, oh gosh, I can't believe that. I should know this stuff, man. Like then they feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Then it's pity. You don't want pity. I always say pity is the worst human emotion that you can ever elicit from a person. You do not want pity. But if you go to an interview and they're asking you to do stuff and you don't know how to do it, and you're bombing it, and you're just like flat out honest, like, look, like, would you help me? Like, I get this. It's cool. I fucked up this interview, but it's cool. It's all right. It's all right. That's a totally different place. It's not coming down on yourself. And if you flip the script, if you're in that position and someone says that to you and you're interviewing them, what are you going to do? You're going to help them out. You're going to say, hey, yeah, I like this guy. I help. In fact, you might even help them out and then hire him. Like it's, it's not going to happen in every case, but that may be a result, because they may say, or they may say, hey, you know what, come back in a couple of weeks, let's do an interview again. Let's see if you improve,
And I completely agree. Like there's actually one of the interviews, which was getting close to the end. One of those interviews, I went on an interview and it lasted 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
The guy was like, okay, we're doing some complex stuff here. You don't really have a lot of background. tell me everything, you know.
Yeah.
So over those 3 hours, I went through everything I knew. I'm telling you, I went from how the browser works all the way to like elemental, like JavaScript, the core of JavaScript. So, and Node.js, things like that. So it was interesting. 3 hours. I didn't get the job, right?
Right.
Guess what happened? And I'll probably shoot you the email. Maybe you could display it after. After getting the job where I'm currently at right now,
Yeah.
2 weeks after, I got an email asking me, "Hey, Greg, did you get the job?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, I got the job." And they were like, "Too bad, we wanted to hire you.
Yeah.
We were thinking about it. We regret not taking the chance on the first chance, on the first when you first came to the interview."
Yeah.
So it's funny you did that because I didn't really do that great on that interview, but I showed them all I knew. And I on the back of my head, I knew that was one of the interviews where I knew in the back of my head I'm probably gonna get the job because it was more mid-level.
Right.
But I did my best, and it does work out. Like sometimes if you kind of like don't pity yourself, but kind of just display your best foot forward and just show them like, hey, just keep it real. Like this is what I know.
Yeah.
And can you work with it? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be on a job. You don't want to be hired for a job you can't do because you're just going to be frustrated. And
Right.
that's another good point. You really don't want to be hired for a job you can't do because you're going to get frustrated and probably quit programming after
Right.
that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and you just got to be that guy that like everyone wants to root for if you think about it, right? And that's the thing is it's like it's the hard work, it's the person who's determined, who's going in there, who's not self-deprecating, but is realistic with themselves. And yeah, that's just awesome how that works because people want to help you. And I mean, I'm sure that guy did a 3-hour interview with you because he was looking for a reason to hire you because he probably liked you. And he's like, I hope that we figure out how, like, you know, keep on asking you and see what you know so you can, and that's what will happen is I've talked about this, I think in soft skills, I was talking about the idea that like we hire people who we like, right? It's not the most technically competent person. I mean, not that you don't have to have skills, but honestly, if you go into an interview and you have like you're perfect, like you're overqualified for this job, but the interviewer doesn't like you, they're going to find every flaw that you have. They're going to find all these reasons why you're coming up short and why you're technically not competent and why you shouldn't get the job. But if you're someone who like connects with the interviewer and they like you and they like your personality and they think that, you know, they just like those attributes about you, they're going to try and find every excuse and every reason why you are qualified for the job. We do this all the time. We bias our justifications for our decisions all the time. When we say, you know, why did you buy that car, right? We always have the reason, the backstory for it. We're like we figure out the reasons that logically makes sense for the emotional thing that we do, right? Buying a car is an emotional decision. Buying a house is an emotional decision. But then when people ask us, we don't say, oh, I really love that car. We say, oh, well, you know, it gets good gas mileage and this had the best safety rating or whatever. But that's all bullshit. We went in and we bought the car because and it's the same thing when we hire people, you know, when we all these decisions that are mostly emotional decision. In fact, they did this study where they, you know, different people that had the emotional center of their brain removed and they couldn't make any decisions. Right. This is so that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. So just to recap it real quick, just so you guys, I just want to get a hold of the timeline. So I mean, you basically went from, was it in January that you were a bank teller?
Yeah, February actually. I think February, late February,
so
early January, late February, one of those two.
And basically no exposure to computer science, right? Or like our programming, or did you have some programming knowledge?
Just mainly, so I did Linux server administration for a while, but it was literally just maintaining the servers. So in basic like HTML, CSS, and JS, but none on a programming level that you could say really. So it was really from scratch.
Okay, yeah. So a little bit of computer background, Linux background. So you went from February, bank teller, really doesn't know anything about programming at all, didn't study in school, wasn't like no mathematics background,
Nope.
to it's July now and a couple weeks. So I guess like end of June. So we're talking like in what, 4 months time period, or
Yeah.
maybe 5 months, we could say like 4 to 5 months. You went from, I want to rehash this part of the story just for the people out there that like to see that this is possible, and this is not even an anomaly, right? I've had other people, and this happens, this can happen, but from 4 to 5 months, from no real knowledge of programming at all, to got a job, not just got a job as a developer, but got multiple job offers. In fact, someone coming back and saying, we wish we would have hired you. That's 4 or 5 months of learning, right? And I mean, obviously you've got a lot to learn, but that's all it takes. Like, when the element of success there, and the reason why I wanted to highlight the story was because it was the mindset, it was the trusting the process, it was being the bulldog, it was all of these things that really, and putting in the work that led to that result in such a short period of time. And so it's possible, you guys out there, that you can do this. You really can do this. I mean, Greg's story is not a made-up story. I mean, he's proof of this, and there's a lot of other of you that have emailed me that have given me similar stories in very short time frames. Now, it may take someone a year, or it may take them 2 years, but still, it's still highly achievable to go from no programming knowledge, no degree, in computer science, to getting a job and actually, doubling your salary, whatever, triple your salary, depending on where you're working, and now getting a programming job makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah, and it's all about mindset. If you look at my life before 4 months ago and now, nothing changed. Right. As far as there's still the same government, we still have the same shit going around. Everything's the same except for my mindset. And I used to be one of those people that called bullshit when I was like, oh, you change your mindset and shit happens. It works. If you're willing to change your mindset and work hard, and that's another key, work hard.
Right.
And actually do the work, it'll happen. It'll actually happen. And I mean, I wouldn't, just to put it into perspective, the building I'm on right now, my mom and aunt cleaned this building. Yeah. So I work for the company that cleaned this building right here, like in 28th Street. Yeah. So that just kind of gives you the perspective of the kind of shift that my life just took. I just went from the family who cleans the building to the guy who works in it.
Wow, I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's all mindset.
And so one more question for you. I gotta get going here. What about the family? What about the other? Because this is one of the things, right? It's like you change your mindset, and this is, I mean, and this was me, right? And you said too, you're a skeptic. It's good to be a skeptic to some degree, but eventually, you get that mindset change, and you realize how important that is. But then the first thing that happens for a lot of people is that everyone around them says, "Oh, what are you now, John? You're some kind of fucking self-help guru. You think that you're getting all spiritual and you're all woo-woo out there. You think you're just gonna do this, you know what I mean? Or someone says, oh, you think you're gonna be a programmer now? Come on, what? You don't even know math, dude. Fuck. You're not gonna be a programmer. What are you wasting your time with this shit for? Go take that job. Go take the construction job. Come work at my factory or whatever." Did you have any of that? Did you have how did your family and friends react to this new mindset and this goal?
Hell yeah, man. I had a lot of that, except for my wife, who's been supportive, mainly because she knows me and we're very close. Yeah. She's been supportive since the very start, but the rest of the family, they could not figure out for the life of me why I was turning down bank jobs while literally working for free. So it's you're gonna have those people, and they might care a lot about you. They might be giving you this advice out of the goodness of their hearts. Doesn't mean it's right. The way I dealt with it was, you have to look at where they are. Yep. As far as okay, is the person who's giving me this advice, even though they love me, where are they? What kind of mindset do they have? And if it doesn't match with your mindset or what you're trying to do, it might be good advice on their end, but it might not be the best advice for you. So what I did was, my parents used to tell me what are you doing? You're crazy. And now they're congratulating me. They threw me a party literally last week where I got the pole and everything. So it was fun. Yeah. But they were literally telling me I was crazy back in February for doing what I was doing. And it's just a matter of don't listen to the people who haven't done what you're trying to do. Like if you were to reach out to me and tell me, Greg, you're crazy, the what you're doing, I might put more weight on that.
Right.
Or if another programmer was like, okay, you don't know what you're doing, put more weight on that. But if that bias is coming from someone who hasn't done what you're trying to attempt to do, it is not as valuable.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You even have to watch the ones, you know, you even have to watch the people that have done it, that did, I mean, to some degree, you got to take input from people, but you got to ultimately trust your heart and what you know. Right. And it's like, because we know better for ourselves when we're honest, honestly, objectively looking at ourselves. But man, that's cool. I'm so glad they threw you a party and stuff. And it happens. Like, that's the thing. It's like, man, I remember when I first started investing in real estate, I remember getting on the phone with my dad and he's like, "You're a fucking idiot." Like, you know, he's like, he means well though. Like, he's watching out for me, right? It's like, he doesn't understand. It's not that he's against me or that he's the enemy, but I gotta say, you know what? I'm not hearing this. All right. Like, and I'm going to keep on plowing for. I can't let those things stop me. Otherwise, I mean, if I let all the haters on YouTube and everyone that, you know, told me to shut the fuck up, if I let them shut me up and not do my thing, I would never be successful ever. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like if you listen to people, you never get anywhere because there's always going to be someone trying to tell you what you're doing is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, I mean, it is great. I mean, you went from not knowing anything about programming really to like getting like multiple job offers in 4 to 5 months. Like, that's insane, right? Like, that's crazy. Like, as most people say, oh, well, it takes like so many years. You got to go to college. You got to do all this stuff. But you did it. And here you are. And you're only going to rise up from here. And heck, I mean, now you're at this point, like, where you could get job, like getting a job probably wouldn't be difficult for you at this point. Now you've actually got experience on the resume. Now you've actually have gone through this. So that's awesome, man. So I can, you know, I definitely, I want to hear from you. Like, let me know, you know, I want to see what happens and see your progression. Cause I'm interested in your story, and maybe we can do an update later. I'm sure that a lot of the viewers and listeners here would probably be interested to see where you go from here, but I know you're going to do great things, Greg. And, you know, I just appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. It really is inspiring. I was so excited when I saw your email and it's like, yeah, fuck, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. You did it, man. So that's cool. Hopefully this will inspire others as well. Any parting words for just last piece of advice for people that maybe are in your same situation, or that were like, I know there's a lot of people that watch this YouTube channel that are working retail jobs, or even I've talked to people that are bank tellers, or you know, they want to get into it, but they're not sure, they don't think it's possible.
Definitely. So the one thing technical wise that would make a big difference, when I was learning, I kind of stood away from strange code bases. So I would like code everything myself, things like that. But when it came to like let's say you go to GitHub and you find a project, do it. Go through all the code that you don't understand, because when you go on the job, that's what you're going to do. You're not going to, half of the time, you're not going to create something from scratch. They're going to throw you on a code base and you're going to have to learn it from scratch. So something I recommend is go to GitHub, pick a project. It doesn't matter what project it is. Make sure it works. So if the coding works, go through it. Try to understand it, break it down, ask questions, email the people who are maintaining the code, because that's what you're going to be doing in your job. So that would be the thing that you could get the most out of, I would suggest, is just go on GitHub, find some projects, start working on them. It doesn't matter if you don't understand the whole thing, nobody does.
Right.
Take it one piece at a time. Pick one component and work on that component. Try to understand how it works, change it around, hack it around, and then just go from there. And that would be the best advice I could give anyone who's watching this right now.
That's a great tip. Yeah, that's a really good tip. In fact, what you can do is you can just download the project, play with it, right? Compile it, like run it, and then say, hey, I wonder if I could add this feature to it or add this button. And if you go and you figure out how to do that, that's real world. That's like what you would do. Like, this is a really good So yeah, I appreciate that. Great advice, Greg. All right, Greg. It's been fun, man. You're an awesome guy, and I'm so glad we got the chance to talk and share your story. And yeah, I wish you the best.
Thank you, man. See you in the next one.
All right.